Hey, what's going on, Who That Nation? Is yours truly, TJ Jones, the host of the State of the Saints podcast, and this is the State of the Saints podcast live. Now, as you can see, I'm at the radio station once again on this Monday afternoon. If you're actually looking at this on a Monday, it is a Monday afternoon. But of course, I wanted to go live. I wanted to talk New Orleans Saints. Um, Didn't really do anything over the weekend. Didn't put out any videos. I want to apologize for that. I didn't put out any videos because brother had to kind of decompress a little bit about what was going on in the world. I mean, y'all see what's going on, man. It's crazy out here, but we got to talk about the New Orleans Saints. We got to talk about what's going on with the New Orleans Saints. If you see the topic, the topic is about Jadeveon Clowney. And are the Saints serious about Jadeveon Clowney? We're also going to be talking about why the DeAndre Hopkins, Michael Thomas debate is good for the Saints organization. And we're also going to be talking about some New Orleans Saints players or former players that have took part in some of these protests that took place over the weekend. But we're going to go ahead and start with I'm going to start with Jadeveon Clowney. The question on everybody's mind in the Who That Nation is, are the Saints serious about Jadeveon Clowney? Is Jadeveon Clowney going to end up with the Saints? The Saints got about $9.6 million to work with. Are they going to bring in the pass rusher that is looking for a big-time contract? And, I did a couple videos about Jadeveon Clowney. I think a lot of people know where I stand when it comes to Jadeveon Clowney. I feel like Marcus Davenport and Jadeveon Clowney are basically the same type of player, in my opinion. I mean, they're both hybrid guys. They're both super athletic, and they both have a history of being hurt. I feel like if you was to get Jadeveon Clowney, you would basically be getting another Davenport. Now, I'm in no way saying that the Saints shouldn't try to go after Jadeveon Clowney. I know the type of skill set he possesses, and I know the type of skills that this guy has. He has very elite skills. He's a high motor guy, and when he plays, he's a very disruptive player. But I just don't feel like it makes sense from a position standpoint, just because we in the Who Dat Nation are not patient enough to work with Marcus Davenport. The fact that we just want instant gratification every time a Saints, the Saints organization draft a player. All of a sudden, we just want instant gratification, and that's just not how it works. Okay, I understand that these guys get paid a whole bunch of money. I understand that we have emotional investment in the Saints organization. I understand that we talk a lot of noise to rival teams about our New Orleans Saints. But at the same time, we have to understand that it takes these guys to develop. These guys come out of college. They go from one system and being, a part of a college college program to trying to be a pro. And a lot of the times these guys come from universities that don't have the right strengthening and conditioning programs. They don't have the resources that it takes in order for them to be an elite player right away. Case in point, Marcus Davenport, coming from the University of Texas, San Antonio, man. I mean, the Roadrunners, no disrespect to them, man. I know they are a very, respectable, college football program if you want to look at it in a smaller market standpoint. But, I mean, they don't have the resources like a University of Alabama. They don't have the resources like a Michigan or Ohio State. So to expect Marcus Davenport to just be all world coming out of college, I think that you're asking for a little bit too much. The thing that we need to be asking is for a guy to get better each and every year, which Marcus Davenport has done. His rookie season, according to Pro Football Focus, he averaged about 73. His average was a 73. He moved it all the way up to an 82. He was one of the most elite edge rushers as far as stopping a run in the National Football League before he was hurt. But people don't pay attention to any of those things because we're so focused on what a defensive end, according to media people, tell us that they're supposed to do. They don't really focus on setting an edge. They don't really focus on tackles for loss. They don't focus on guys having quarterback hurries because all of that stuff really matters. I mean, you have to understand, if you knock the quarterback off his spot, or if you have him on the run, he is not going to be as accurate as he is in the pocket. So even though Davenport is probably not producing double-digit sacks like Cameron Jordan is, or having like a certain type of technique that allows Cameron Jordan to get to the quarterback, he still is stopping the run when they run to the left side. He's still getting quarterback hurries, which causing a quarterback to not be as accurate. So that's the only thing that you can really ask for. And not to mention the guy went from having, I think, around 2 to 3 sacks his first year to about 6 sacks in his second year before he was injured. So I'm one of those people, I feel like you need to be patient with Marcus Davenport. And I don't feel like Jadeveon Clowney is the answer. I feel like if they get Jadeveon Clowney, the Saints are just trying to beef up the defense. But I feel like it just, let's just say, for example, if you got a Maserati in your front yard, that's like going out there just getting a Bentley. You already got a luxury vehicle. You already got a vehicle that everybody's going to stop and stare at and be like, ooh, man, I want one of those. So I feel like by you going out there to get that Bentley, it's just an insult to injury. You know what I'm saying? I won't say insult to injury, but you're just trying to stun on them. So I like Jadeveon Clowney. I like him a lot. But if it was me, I would try to spend the money on trying to get somebody at the linebacker position or even in the secondary. I feel like those are the type of positions that the Saints lack. Those are the positions that have been the Achilles heel of the New Orleans Saints for the past 3 to 4 years. The Saints have been getting pressure on the quarterback. The Saints have been disruptive up front. Regardless of the fact that Sheldon Rankins and Davenport have been injured, you still had guys like Trey Hendrickson coming in. Last year, Shai Tuttle, David Anyamata. These guys have been stepping up, and they have been creating results. But we're so focused on these guys being injured, we're not looking at these other guys coming in and stepping up and making plays because we want sexy names. We want guys that are sexy. We want guys that when we hear their names, we want them to strike fear into our opponents. But at the end of the day, I'm about production. Okay, I'm about guys that are going to come in and when the Saints are lacking something, when they're lacking at a position, that guy actually comes in and they don't miss a beat or they get a little bit better. Case in point, Demario Davis, man. You know, Demario Davis wasn't a household name here. This guy was a guy that was a part of the Cleveland Browns and the Jets rotation. And the next thing you know, he's a first-team All-Pro. Nobody really knew who Demario Davis was. Maybe if you're from Mississippi around the Jackson, Brandon area, you probably knew who Demario Davis was because he's from that area. But you didn't know who Demario Davis was, and you definitely didn't know the type of production that he was going to put up. You didn't know anything about some of these other players that came along. Maybe Kiko Alonso. But as far as like Craig Robertson and A.J. Klein and guys like that, man, you didn't know the type of production those guys were going to put up. So I think we need to shy away from the sexy names and start focusing on guys that can actually be contributors and guys that can come in that are smart football players and that can help the defense out. If you want to go out there and get somebody like a Logan Ryan on a 1-year deal, I say go for it. But he was going to help out in the secondary. The same secondary that gives up crucial plays late in games. That is what the Saints need to do. Not going out here trying to get somebody like Jadeveon Clowney so we can jump around our living rooms and say, hey, man, we going to the Super Bowl. Because we got a guy that's a defensive end in the rotation when we got a young hybrid guy who has the same similar skill set as a Jadeveon Clowney. That's what I feel about him. I like Jadeveon Clowney. If the Saints were to get him, I wouldn't be mad at it, but I just feel like that's not necessary. Not at all. I'm going to go ahead and answer some of the questions from you all in the Who Dat Nation. Thank you all for spending your afternoon here on the State of the Saints podcast. And I want to give a special shout out to Sheets. I see Edward, Ricky, Saints fan. Mike is in here. Jerry Poor, my guy. Greg Nettleton, Kirian, another familiar face or a familiar person to the State of the Saints podcast. Thank you so much. Iceman T is in the building. So I'm going to answer some of these questions, man. And before I do, I want to give a special shout out to my guy, Chosen Kingston, man. He celebrated his birthday on yesterday. So I want to give a happy belated birthday to Chosen Kingston, man. So if you follow Chosen Kingston on here, y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all wish my guy happy birthday, man. A card-carrying member of the Who Dat Nation and a supporter of the State of the Saints podcast. Let's see. Iceman T gonna start us off with a question. He says, "How do you think Drew and Sean are still a championship duo, or has the recent playoff failure killed their mystique?" Um, Iceman, I still feel like they're a championship contender because I think we need to understand this, that even though Drew Brees is not the quarterback that he used to be, even though Drew Brees is not the guy that can get the ball down the field, he's still an elite passer of the football because he can get the ball where it needs to be. Okay, he's still as accurate and pinpoint as he was in his youth. As long as the New Orleans Saints can commit to the running game, and as long as they can get better on defense and not give up big plays in crucial parts of the game, I think they can be a championship duo. The problem is, Iceman, is the fact that the Saints sometimes become too predictable and they become too Drew Brees dependent. They become too Drew Brees dependent, and they count on Drew Brees to try to get them out of every situation, even when Drew Brees can't get them out of situations. I understand that Drew Brees has been the Saints' bread and has been the Saints' butter for years. Okay, ever since he came to the Saints in 2006, he has been the guy that's throwing the football all over the place and has brought credibility to the New Orleans Saints organization. Make no mistake about it, the Saints used to stink. Okay, I know we are all Saints fans. I know we used to be, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to say used to be. I know we are card-carrying members of the Who Dat Nation. But let's just call a spade a spade, folks. The Saints were not that good before Drew Brees came along. I mean, you had a little few spots of playoffs here and there, but they weren't that good. They brought credibility to the New Orleans Saints, which I feel like is a blessing and a curse, because it's a blessing because now we're mentioned among some of the elite teams in the league for the past 15, 16 years. But it's also a curse because now people can't see the forest through the trees. People have difficulties critiquing these guys, and they feel like if they're not going to war with someone in a Who Dat Nation that is critical of these guys, they feel like they're not true Saints fans, which is getting things misconstrued. But I digress. The fact is, the Saints are championship contenders, but Drew Brees cannot be the reason why the Saints get to the Super Bowl. Okay, and there's nothing wrong with it. We see this all the time, folks. We hear this all the time. We see this all the time. When players start to reach the end of their career, teams start to bring in defenses. They start to bring in players that can compensate for the deficiencies of that quarterback. We've seen it out there in Denver. When Denver came and got Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning had one MVP type year. The next season, he fell off a cliff, okay? But the thing about it is, they went out there and they got a really good offensive line that protected him, and they made like a huge, great wall. They got a good running game. They had him throw the football every now and then, and they played elite defense. That is what got the Denver Broncos to the Super Bowl. That's what got them winning the Super Bowl. And this honestly is a tale of two teams. You look at the Denver Broncos the first year where Peyton Manning led them to the Super Bowl, they got shellacked by the Seattle Seahawks. And why was that? It's because the quarterback that threw for more yards in the season than any other quarterback and put up more touchdowns than any other quarterback could not deliver in the postseason. And what did they do? They learned from their mistakes, and they got a good offensive line, and they got a good defense around Vine, and all those other guys out there. So you look at these guys and you say, okay, they're learning from their mistakes. If the Saints don't learn from their mistakes, if they don't learn from the mistakes of yesteryear, history is going to continuously repeat itself. It's going to continue to do that. So, Iceman, they still are championship contenders. As long as you have Drew Brees, you're a championship contender. But we'll be lying to ourselves if we weren't to say that this window is closing, folks. It is. Like, be real. Be real. Like, it does not make you any less of a Saints fan to be a realist and be real with yourself. The Saints are not, the window is not wide open, okay? It is not. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, and if you want to hear that the window is wide open, this is not the channel, okay? The window is slowly closing. There is going to be a drop-off when Drew Brees retires. You do not, like, that type of efficiency does not grow on trees. Ask the Miami Dolphins. Ask the 49ers. Ask the Buffalo Bills. Quarterbacks that were Hall of Famers. It has taken years for them to be replaced. Look at Miami, man. They just now think that they got the replacement for Dan Marino. And Dan Marino has been retired for almost 20 years, if not 20 years. I think he retired in 99. I mean, look at the Denver Broncos, still struggling. You'll have little speckles of success here and there, but nobody really replaced John Elway. You can say Peyton Manning did, but Peyton Manning did most of his damage in Indianapolis, and he was on borrowed time. So for people to think that, oh, man, Taysom Hill is going to come in. Oh, man, Jameis Winston is going to come in. You're lying to yourself. Drew Brees is an all-time great quarterback, and they do not grow on trees, folks. So the Saints are going to have to adjust. They're going to have to change some of their ways, or we're going to see new coaches, man, straight up. You know, we're going to see a new coaching staff, or we're going to see new philosophies. It's rather either or. You cannot run the same type of offense and think that you're going to throw the ball all over the place like we're the New Orleans Voodoo, and you think that the New Orleans Saints are going to go to the Super Bowl. That's a fact, okay? I know we like Taysom Hill. I know we believe in Jameis Winston and his resurrection. I'm one of those folks. I'm cheering for the guy. But trust and believe, man, this production does not grow on trees. Let's scroll down a little bit, man, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people had something to say after that first comment. Thank you, Iceman. Kirion says, do you feel that DeAndre Hopkins is the best wide receiver in the NFL? My opinion, I believe he is up there, but I feel Michael Thomas is slightly better. I'm going to do this. Mike T, a 1A, and D-Hop is 1B. That's that. Kirion, thank you very much. That kind of transitions us to my next topic that I wanted to discuss. That was DeAndre Hopkins versus Michael Thomas, and who is the better wide receiver. Now, to me, I'm saying to me, okay, this is my personal belief. I'm not saying that I'm right or wrong. You believe what you want to believe. That's what makes us all great, okay? That's what makes us all different, that we may share a difference of opinion. But in my honest opinion, DeAndre Hopkins is better than Michael Thomas. I feel like DeAndre Hopkins is a better wide receiver. I feel like he is a all-world type of player. And the reason I say that is because he played with some absolute bum trash, okay? He played with some absolute straight hot garbage throughout his entire career. This guy had just got a decent quarterback, okay, over the past 3 years with Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson is the best quarterback DeAndre Hopkins has ever had. I mean, do I need to tell you about Brock Osweiler? Do I need to tell you about Tom Savage? Do I need to tell you about T.J. Yates? Do I need to tell you about some of that other stuff that was going on in Houston? Case Keenum, okay? I mean, I know Case Keenum put up that Minneapolis Miracle, but he is not a household name, and I think we all can agree that he is not an elite quarterback. So DeAndre Hopkins has been doing it with some straight hot garbage for years and has been putting up production, and I feel like the fact that we're actually having him in this conversation is a testament to his greatness. Now, I'm not one of those people that feel like Michael Thomas wouldn't be putting up these type of numbers if he didn't have Drew Brees. Now, does that help? Does the combination of an elite quarterback and an offensive-minded coach help Michael Thomas? Absolutely. But I can make this argument that Michael Thomas was given absolutely nothing. He was given absolutely nothing. Josh and Jesus, thank you very much for the $2 donation. I'll make sure I read that in a second, my friend. Thank you for the $2. Michael Thomas, once again, was given absolutely nothing. Nobody believed in Michael Thomas. I think a lot of us in the Who Dat Nation didn't even really believe in Michael Thomas and the fact that Michael Thomas would be as good as he is right now. I think we looked at him and we were comparing him to Marcus Colston. We didn't think that he would actually exceed Marcus Colston. We thought that he would actually just play on the level or you know, the same level, a little bit below it, but not quite as Marcus Colston. And what has he done? He's upped the ante. He's upped the ante, folks. this is why I respect Michael Thomas. And this is one of the reasons why I say I love the fact that he's in the conversation. I respect anybody that comes in and has a lunch pail and hard hat mentality. If they come in and they work hard. The fact that Michael Thomas held his head down and just constantly worked all the way to year 4. And we're having a conversation about him being an elite wide receiver or the best wide receiver in the National Football League speaks volumes. So I think by that, I think you need to give him a couple more notches. Give him a couple more notches to say that he is an elite among the elite. But in my opinion, he is not better than DeAndre Hopkins. And how does Michael Thomas, in my opinion, get better than DeAndre Hopkins? Is he answers a lot of these unanswered questions about him. Yeah, we've seen him perform in 5 games without Drew Brees. Yeah, we've seen him catch passes from 2 other quarterbacks that were not named Drew Brees. But Michael Thomas is eating off an elite quarterback. And a lot of people are going to continuously say that about him until Drew Brees retires. And if Michael Thomas plays at the level that he is playing right now with another quarterback, I feel like that's when everybody's going to say he is one of the best or the best wide receivers in the National Football League. But DeAndre Hopkins, with the trash that he had on his team at quarterback, and for him to be putting up 1,000+ yards and 100 catches each and every year, I'm going to say that he is a better wide receiver than Michael Thomas. Now, Michael Thomas is incredible. Okay, he is incredible. But still, there's still some unanswered questions about him. There is. I know that a lot of people may not agree with that. I know a lot of people may be mad at me for saying that, but there are some unanswered questions about Michael Thomas as far as like, why is he putting up these type of numbers? Oh, he has some vice grip hands. Okay, no mistake about it. This guy can catch the cold, the flu, COVID-19, all that stuff. Okay, he got it all. Okay, great route running, all that stuff. But still, you have to do it. And a lot of people don't respect you until you face some level of adversity. That's just what it is. For example, people respect Michael Jordan more, right? People start respecting Michael Jordan because Michael Jordan was getting his behind whooped by the Detroit Pistons in the 80s, right? He was getting whooped. Could not get past the Celtics, could not get past the Pistons, okay? It wasn't until he got past the Pistons that people just started to respect him and started to respect the talent that he possesses. Why? Because he went through adversity and he overcame that adversity. The same thing with Michael Thomas. People feel like he's, living on a flower bed. I mean, you got the best quarterback, arguably, statistically, in NFL history throwing you the football. So how tough is it? Okay? Cannot be that tough. Even if that's not the case. Do I think it's the case? No. Because I consider Michael Thomas as the second coming of Chris Carter. I do. He plays just like Chris Carter to me. Great hands, great route running skills. And I feel like anybody that throws in the ball, he's going to be productive. He's on his way to Canton pending injury. There's no doubt about that. But people are going to continue to say DeAndre is better because of who he had throwing him the football and the adversity that he had to overcome. But thank you, Kirian. Thank you so much, man. Allen says, so that's a knock on him because he has a great quarterback. Do you want him? The football? I don't know what you mean by do you want him the football? Come on, man. What was the difference between the Saints and Packers last year, or were they both fraudulent? 13-3 teams. I feel like the Green Bay Packers were fraudulent. I never believed in the Green Bay Packers. They almost had David Blau beat them in Week 17. Wasn't a fan of them. Feel like they were smoke and mirrors. They was eating off a very easy schedule. They were a flower bed team in my opinion. So I really didn't believe in them. I feel like the Saints had to kind of overcome more than the Packers did. Who been saying that we are interested in Clowney? I mean, you had some reports that came out. There was even an article on Sports Illustrated. Check it out, man. They were saying, like, are the Saints interested in Clowney? So check it out. It's on Sports Illustrated. It'll give you all the whole story. Are we getting Clowney or not? Don't know. Griffin over Clowney, yeah, I would say yeah. You got a point there, TJ. D Hop has had some trash quarterbacks throughout his career and putting up monster numbers. I never looked at it that way. A good argument there. Morton Anderson was our best player back when I watched. Yeah, the kicker. Is it a knock on him because he has a great quarterback? Every receiver wants a great quarterback to throw the ball to him. Allen, let me make this very, very clear, okay? This is not me talking, but I understand the media and their narratives. And we got to stop pretending like the media doesn't push the narrative. If this weekend does not prove that the media can push the narrative to you, I don't know what does. The media can tell you that until a player overcomes adversity, Allen, this is not TJ saying this to you. This is what people are going to continue to push. Until people actually feel that Michael Thomas has went through some level of adversity or he has overcame some type of obstacle, he is not going to be considered the best wide receiver in football. Statistically, I mean, honestly, you can say the same thing about Drew Brees. Drew Brees has every statistical record for a quarterback, for the exception maybe of a single season passing record. He is one, I think Peyton Manning had 1 yard more than he did. Look at Drew Brees' career. Drew Brees was not a part of the all-decade team. He was not a part of the top 100 team. They still don't have a level of respect for Drew Brees because they feel like, once again, they have pushed the narrative to say that if you play in a dome, control climate, control conditions, you should be able to throw the football all over the place. Forget the fact that Matt Schaub has played in a dome before Matt Ryan got there. Forget about the fact that Aaron Brooks played there. Forget about Billy Joe Hobart, Billy Joe Tolliver, Jim Everett. Forget about all those other guys that have been in a dome. Okay, forget about all those guys that have played in a dome. Okay, forget about all the people before Peyton Manning got to Indianapolis. Forget about that, okay? Because the media tries to push the narrative to make people believe that Drew Brees is benefiting from controlled climates, okay? That is what they're trying to make you believe, that the fact that he gets opportunity to play in 9 dome games a year, sometimes if they go to another team that has a dome, even 10 or 11, that's the reason why he's been successful. Think about that. So they make you believe that you have to overcome some type of obstacle, or because things are beneficial to you, you're not that great, okay? I mean, that's just the way it is. I am telling you how the media pushes things. I'm telling you how they try to spin things. Michael Thomas, if Michael Thomas goes out here and he performs, okay, if he goes out there and performs without Drew Brees, he's going to be among the elite. Now, that is going to be one hurdle. The next hurdle, within the middle of his career and the prime of his career, if he does not win a Super Bowl, then that is going to be the narrative. That's just what the media does, Allen. I'm not saying this from my particular standpoint. I'm telling you what the media does. Until a player has overcome some type of adversity, they are going to push the narrative that the reason why they are so successful because things are easy for them. Why you think like they don't say that Emmitt Smith is the all-time leading rusher? Well, I mean, he's the all-time leading rusher, and why do you think that they put him in the middle of the pack when it comes to the top 10 running backs? Because of the something I like to call the Great Wall of Dallas, okay? With Larry Allen and all those other guys that were on the offensive line, and they felt like a semi-truck could have ran through some of those holes. Not giving Emmitt Smith that much credit. So until Michael Thomas overcomes adversity, like DeAndre Hopkins has done, now DeAndre Hopkins can honestly, the only way that DeAndre Hopkins can go now is up. If he wins the championship, it's Kyler Murray. I'm pretty sure it's going to be much better than any other quarterback he had, for the exception of maybe Deshaun Watson. His career, I mean, he already has overcame that adversity. So people are going to continuously have him in that that conversation. I mean, they just are. That's just what it is. That's how the media works. I don't make the rules. I just tell you about them. Do you think Winston may come in a lot more in comfortable scoring games to rest Breeze? Caleb, I can't answer that question. I just know that Drew Brees isn't a competitor. And if the games get out of reach, why not? We've seen that before. We've seen Teddy Bridgewater come in the game on mop-up duty. If the Saints can have enough games where they're actually blowing teams out, I don't see a need for Drew Brees to be in the game. I don't see a reason for Drew Brees to continue to play. You can have him padding stats or something like that, but at the end of the day, I don't see a reason why not. But in no way do I